What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I wanted to break down what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to talk about the big tech earnings that just came out and how things are looking thus far, and what this means for the market going into tomorrow as we have a nice setup for a short squeeze. But before I break anything down all this information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. Firstly, I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, the link down below, and deposit $100 into the account, you are guaranteed up to 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed up to 15 free stocks, and the offer ends very soon in just about a week. Anyways, now let's break down what's happening to the market. So I just wanted to break down what ended up going down. Jerome Powell said a lot of things that caused the market to sink very hard, but the market made an attempt to recover. And after that happened, we had the big tech earnings. I gave everyone a warning about how these earnings could pan out. I said we might see the market turn parabolic or we might get a massive rug pull. So I told you to be very careful. And instead, it's looking like the market might see more upside thanks to the big tech earnings because 2 out of the 3 earnings were very, very strong. One of them is not the strongest. I'll be talking about that over the next couple of minutes. So let's talk about this. What's happening with some data affecting the markets? Tomorrow, an hour before the market opens, we have the non-farm payrolls and unemployment rate coming out. Not to mention the labor force participation rate, excuse me. And then after that, when all this data comes out, it might cause some volatility. Then we also have at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time some minor pieces of data: the Michigan Consumer Sentiment Report, the 5-year inflationary expectations, and other pieces of data which might shake the market. So watch all of this very carefully at 10 a.m. and we'll see how things go. Now, one thing I want to call out is we saw a big change in the options chain. I was looking at this a few days ago, and we're suddenly seeing a lot of puts being bought, especially after Jerome Powell gave a speech. And now things are looking like this. Tomorrow is going to be February 2nd. We have just about 365,000 calls expiring. We have 850,000, almost that many, puts expiring with the 2.33 puts to call ratio. So the large majority of people, individuals, institutions have puts betting the stock market is going to crash and tank tomorrow. In my opinion, the market makers are incentivized to hold the market up or even cause a short squeeze, just push the market up even higher. And there's a there's a very, very good chance they might end up doing that. What is the catalyst to help the market push higher, despite what Jerome Powell said? And the answer may be the big tech earnings, which just came out. So, how are things looking for the big tech earnings? First and foremost, the weakest one is Aapl right now. So, Aapl has fallen after the company gave its outlook, suggesting weaker iPhone sales. And iPhone sales have declined 13% in China due to many regulations and also political tensions. So with that going on, it's a little bit negative for Apple, but that's despite the fact, that Apple ended up beating on earnings. They beat on EPS, they beat on revenue. iPhone revenue was above expectations. Mac revenue was quite good. iPad revenue was okay. Everything else was pretty good for them, especially their gross margins. So good earnings from Apple. Their guidance for the current quarter is still about to be coming out. They didn't really provide much about that, but some data has suggested weak iPhone sales in China have come out, which is a major, major important market for them. And that was a little bit negative for them. So that's actually trumping a lot of their earnings for now, and that's part of why Apple's actually selling off. Apple's down only 3%. It's not crashing extremely hard. It's just trying to hold 180. We'll see if this holds. That also aligns very closely with the daily 200 EMA at 179.77. If we lose that 180 support, I do anticipate it to cut closer to about 178. But for now, we'll just see how well Apple holds. But please know it's only down 3%, which is not that bad. But the other earnings are trumping this. They're causing something even bigger. Let me show you that in just a minute. So next off, we have Amazon. Amazon reported better than expected results. Revenues up 14%, and they're beating many, many expectations with optimistic guidance for the first quarter. So EPS, it's a big beat, $1 versus 80 cents. Revenue is at 170 billion, which is massive. Another beat for them. Amazon Web Services is as expected. Advertising is a beat as well. Their guidance for Q1 of 2024 was relatively strong, and their data that came out was not the worst. The company laid off 27,000 employees between late 2022 and mid 2023, and overall, their numbers are not looking that bad. Revenue jumped 14%, which is insane in just the fourth quarter. It's a record breaking holiday for them, and their guidance is looking pretty good. That is good news for them. They also have a new AI shopping assistant alongside other things, which is good news for them. And they also saw a 27% growth year over year to $14.7 billion of growth. So strong earnings, better than expected revenue, and strong guidance from Amazon have sent this thing up almost 8%. It's at 7.5% right now to the upside. So it's pumping. It's pumping. And this is a much bigger move than Apple. Remember, Apple was down only 3%. Amazon's up 7%. That is a bigger move, and that could have a bigger effect. But what's going to have an even bigger effect is Meta, which is up 14% right now. Okay, Meta is up 14%. Why is Meta up so much? The profit has tripled, and also because of the fact that it announced its first ever dividend, which is huge, 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 huge news. Sales in the fourth quarter jumped 25% year over year. Expenses decreased 8% year over year to 23.73 billion, and they're continuing to grow. EPS was a nice beat. Revenue was up $40.1 billion. Daily active users was 2.11 billion, above expectations. Monthly active users at 3.07 billion was above expectations. And on top of this, the revenue was a beat. EPS was a beat. Revenue's up 25%. Net income tripled to 14 billion. Big, big, big increase. And on top of this, it says it's going to pay its investors a dividend of 50 cents a share on March 26th. Everything is bullish, guys. It's bullish. There's nothing bearish about this. Meta is on fire. It's currently up at the time I'm recording this, 14.16%. It's exploding in the after hours. Let me just show you the 4-hour chart just to show you. This is on fire. It's running extremely hard. So out of the three big tech earnings for today, we had Apple, Amazon, and Meta. Apple's down 3%, okay? Right? That could drag the market down a tiny bit. But then you have Amazon, which is up 8%. That's going to beat Apple and push the market higher. Then you have Meta, which is up 14%, which is going to push the market even higher. What is likely going to happen? The answer is Amazon and Meta are going to be the kings, and they're going to push the market up higher most likely. That is my view now, and I think the market's getting ready for one more pump. Now, let me say, I am not a perma bull. I believe the market is going to correct very soon, but I don't think the market is ready for the correction. I want to make that as clear as possible. The market is going to pull back soon. A big pullback is coming. You know, Jerome Powell gave us a scare, but that was not it. It's not time yet. The market's going to run up higher one more time. The pullback will come in the future, but it's not time yet. So what do I see from SPY? It depends on if we could continue to break out above 492.5. If we continue to break above that, we're going to be looking for a bigger pump that's coming. We're nearing a bullish cross in the PPO, so the odds favor this thing pushing even higher. I believe it's going to get very close to 495 by tomorrow, especially because we have, a ton of puts expiring. They might try to cause another short squeeze. This could cause a short squeeze, and this thing could run up to 495. If we break that, there's 497 and 500 coming. I believe it's going to get to at least 495 plus. We're looking bullish tomorrow. I think that the big tech earnings are just going to be used as a good reason to pump more liquidity into the systems. What about for the QQQ? If we could break 427 tomorrow, watch for a push to about 429. If we fail to do so, there's 423.8 that's coming, but I think the odds favor this thing trying to push up to at least 427, then some higher levels. This is looking pretty strong on the QQQ side because on the 4-hour time frame, we have a bullish cross coming in the PPO. Going to be looking for a push for 429. We might see a squeeze tomorrow. So watch for that very carefully. What about for Tesla? Now remember, Tesla tends to get dragged by the market. And if you look at Tesla, we held up very nicely today. We're actually forming a nice double bottom like formation. Going to be looking for a nice push off that. Excuse me, guys. I apologize. If we break 190, look for a push back up to at least 194 to 195. If we break that, we have another resistance coming up. So I noticed that on Tesla, on the 4-hour time frame, if we continue to break out above this 190 resistance, we're going to be looking for a push towards the 50 EMA, which is going to be the 196s for tomorrow. And I think that Tesla might try to test this if we get a breakout. So with this accumulation that is developed, there's a good chance Tesla might attempt to go higher and try to fill this imbalance up to the higher levels. So I think Tesla's going to try to break 190 and get closer to 196 soon. A nice bounce could be coming. And we also have this big gap to fill. We have a big gap right here at 207. Not saying it's going to happen tomorrow, but I do think we're going to try to get to at least the 190s. 196 is a good price target. I think Tesla's going to try to pump. For Nvda, I would say that Nvidia is looking kind of bullish. It actually just broke its all-time high again in the after hours. And thanks to the big tech earnings, Nvidia is also on track to doing well because remember, Meta is also buying up a lot of these chips, and that's going to be bullish for Nvidia. For Nvidia, make sure you watch resistance around 642. If we break that, I think we're going to get very close to about 645 or so, and then 647. So I anticipate some more upside. I believe there's a very good chance we're going to reach these higher levels. And I think that this stock is looking bullish, if anything. I think it looks bullish, right? I was talking about this thing forming a nice accumulation right over here and pushing up. That's what ended up happening. And I think that it has more upside coming. Watch support at 636. If we lose that, there's 632 coming, followed by 628. Watch resistance at 642. If we break that, there's 645 and 647 and 650 coming. I think Nvidia is not done yet, and I think that's going to try to push higher. It's looking very strong. Look for it to kind of like slow down in the pre-market and try pushing when we open. Look for more upside. We might see Nvidia push the market even higher. Now, what about for Aapl? Aapl is still down here, barely holding 180. We're going to be watching to see if we could hold 180, depending on earnings. If we lose it, I think 178 could come, but I don't think that Apple is going to make a massive move compared to like Amazon or Meta. Amazon made an 8% move, Meta made a 14% move. Those are still going to have a bigger effect than Apple. And if Apple holds 180, it could try to rebound a bit. So watch that very carefully. That could also help the market. So watch 180. We'll have to see how this ends up doing, but that's it for the main five I typically go over. For Rivian, going to be looking for this thing to try to push. We're about to get a bullish crossover on the PPO. We came down and tried to bounce, so look for a move right up here towards this previous resistance at 16. That's going to be our price target. For SoFi, we're going to be watching this thing essentially come back down, not looking the strongest, but we might just trade sideways. I think it's going to just shift around the 200 EMA on the daily at 7.86 and just trade sideways. I just see some sideways price action coming, not too much from it. For the IWM Russell 2000, I talked about upside yesterday, and that's what panned out. Going to be looking to see if this could continue towards 197. So let's see if we could continue. We look bullish on the daily time frame. Thanks to big tech, we're actually seeing Microsoft pushing in the after hours. Going to be looking for a move towards 407. If we break that, our next target is going to be up here towards 413. We held support quite nicely. Let's see if we can try to hold up on Microsoft. We might get a counter trend bounce thanks to the big earnings. For AMD, the daily looks a little bullish. Going to be looking for this thing to try to push towards 175 all over again. If it breaks that, it could go a little higher, but watch for 175. I think there's a good chance we get very close to that. The VIX made an attempt to break out. Now it's rejecting. So we'll see if it returns to the 50 EMA. Watch 13.66. If we lose that, we're going to be heading down to 13.4 and then back to the 12s if we lose that. So we're starting to reject, but we need confirmation for a follow-through move tomorrow. We'll just have to wait and see. The dollar attempted to break out and it failed, got a big rejection. Looking bearish on the daily, it might return to 102.77. If we continue to sink on the dollar, that would be bullish for the markets, and that's starting to happen for one last rally. On Coinbase, we're going to be looking to see if this thing could test 132.03, then 134.08. It's about to get a bullish cross in the PPO, so it might attempt to go a little higher, but watch for 132. That might be tested. Google's getting affected by these big tech earnings. It's holding the 50 EMA on the daily nicely. Going to be looking for a counter trend move towards 144 and then 146.2. There is likely going to be a good chance of that panning out. For Amazon, we're on fire. We're up 7% still. We're currently testing 170. If it breaks out, 175 is coming next. Amazon, it looks like it has potential, looks bullish right now, holding up nicely. We'll see if this continues, especially for tomorrow. Overall, not bad. This could drag the market up. And then there's Meta, the new dividend, big earnings, tripling its revenue. It's doing very well. We're at 450. We're trying to hold 450. As long as we hold, it's going to be looking for a move to the upside again. So, what does this mean? Apple is dragging the market down a bit, but it's not enough to really trump Meta and Amazon. Those are making bigger moves. Those are stronger in this case, and they're going to be a lot more pivotal for the market. So on the 4-hour time frame, getting this bullish cross in the PPO suggests more upsides likely coming. Can be looking for a move towards 495 on SPY. If we break that, higher levels are going to be coming. So tomorrow, I think the most likely possibilities we get a squeeze thanks to these big tech earnings. And the market makers are kind of drooling at the idea of causing a squeeze with all these puts expiring. The market makers are going to cause more pain for more people. If the majority of people are shorting the market hard after Jerome Powell's speech, people are betting the market's going to crash, the opposite tends to happen. And there's a very good chance we're going to see that tomorrow, in my opinion. So that being said, thank you for listening. Have an absolutely spectacular day, guys. I'll see you guys very soon tomorrow morning. Let's talk about some unemployment data in the morning, and we'll see how it goes. Thank you for listening. Have a great day, and peace out.